students, Daniel Boone here, and I'm here to continue teaching you about the exploration or the extension of the United States. Now, you'll remember that we started with our 13 original colonies, and as trailblazers like myself extended out and past those Appalachian Mountains, other people were able to cross them and settle in different lands that the Native Americans used to live in, right? And they were pushing those Native Americans on west. Now today we're going to talk about this place down here called New Orleans, which is in the state which we now know as Louisiana. However, at the time, it was not known as Louisiana, and it was actually owned by another country called France. Do you remember France? Now, where was the colonies from, those 13 colonies from, most of them? Great Britain, right? They were British. Do you remember who helped them fight that Revolutionary War George Washington taught you about? It was the French, right? So they must have had a pretty good relationship with the French. But France is who owned this area. Now, we're going to talk about the third president of the United States, named Thomas Jefferson, who you might also remember was the author of the Declaration of Independence and one of the many founders of our country. All right, so listen up to figure out how New Orleans became, and Louisiana became, a part of what we now, or what is now, what is now the United States of America. It was that then too, but it wasn't part of it yet. All right, here we go. Entering his office in Washington, D.C., Thomas Jefferson, President of the United States, was pleased to find his friend James Monroe waiting for him. Monroe politely rose to his feet, but President Jefferson said, "Sit down, James. This is not a formal meeting, as you can see." In fact, Thomas Jefferson was dressed in his robe and slippers. Definitely not a formal meeting. As the two men sat down, James Monroe thought to himself, "Thomas Jefferson doesn't try to make himself look fancy or important, but he is the smartest, most interesting person I have ever known. How lucky I am to be his friend." Now, just one thing. Do we know that that's definitely what he was thinking? No, we don't. But we can guess that that may be what he was thinking, right? At the same time, President Jefferson was thinking, James Monroe is honest and intelligent, and he is willing to work hard to do a job. Speaking out loud now, the president said, "James, I have an important job I want you to do, one that I think you are especially well suited to carry out. I want you to buy a city for us." Buy a city? "I beg your pardon," James Monroe exclaimed in surprise. "Buy a city?" "Yes, I want to send you to France to see the Emperor Napoleon, who rules France and half of Europe as well. When you reach France, I want you to buy the city of New Orleans from Napoleon." James Monroe knew that the city of New Orleans sat near the mouth of the Mississippi River. There's the Mississippi, there's the mouth down there, and the Mississippi River runs all up and down, north and south of the United States of America. French settlers started settling in New Orleans many years ago because they knew that ships and boats, could travel up and down the Mississippi River, allowing people to buy and sell with one another all along the length of the great Mississippi River. James Monroe knew that France still owned New Orleans, plus a great deal of land west of the Mississippi River, stretching all the way to the Rocky Mountains. Ooh, the Rocky Mountains. That's where you guys go to the mountains if you go hiking and stuff, because that's over here in Colorado. Where was I? Jefferson stopped and stared into the flames of the fire by which they sat, for it was a chilly morning. Then he continued, "As you know, James, our nation, the United States, is on the eastern side of the Mississippi, while the area that France has claimed is on the western side." Remember our cardinal directions? We have north, south, east and west never eat soggy waffles. So the United States laid on the east side of the Mississippi, and the rest of it was on the west side. West, east. Excuse me. This thing keeps itching me. I think I lost my place. I found it. More and more Americans are moving near the Mississippi and building towns and cities along the river. We must make, I should be using my Thomas Jefferson voice. We must make sure Americans can do business up and down the river if we are going to build up that part of the United States. Right now, France and the United States are friends, and Napoleon lets American ships pass by New Orleans on their way from the ocean up and down the river. But if Napoleon ever grew angry with us, I understand, said James Monroe. Napoleon could stop our ships and boats from bringing us the things we need. He could stop our farmers in that part of the country from sending food they grow to the rest of us back east, or stop people in the east from shipping farm tools to the farmers. I understand why New Orleans is important, but why would Napoleon want to sell the city? So Napoleon, which you'll learn in a future grade, he was the Emperor of France. And while we were friends with him at the time, he may not always want to be friends with America. So Thomas Jefferson was thinking ahead, thinking, we better own New Orleans just in case he gets angry with us and cuts us off. Good thinking, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. But what did James Monroe ask? Why does Napoleon, here he is now, why would he want to sell a city to the United States? Jefferson answered, Napoleon needs as much money as he can get his hands on so that he can pay for supplies, uniforms, food, and ships for his soldiers and sailors because France is fighting a war in Europe. We will offer to pay him the money he wants, which will make him happy, and we will get control of the river, which will make us happy. Napoleon certainly seems to have a reason to sell New Orleans to us, said Monroe. Do you think Napoleon's going to sell it? What do you think? Jefferson replied, he may have a reason, but we must get Napoleon to agree to the sale. He can be very difficult to work with, James. Here's another picture of Mr. Napoleon, Emperor Napoleon. He thinks he is the most important person alive. If he believes you think so too, he can be a loyal, powerful friend. On the other hand, if he thinks you do not see him as important or do not agree with his ideas, he will have his servants throw you out of his palace and slam the door. James, you are so likable, he'll want to work with you. I know another James that is so likable. Do you know another James that is so likable? If you succeed, you will help us to open up the whole western part of our country that is near the Mississippi River. Will you try? James Monroe stood up. It will be my honor to do so, he said. Thomas Jefferson arose, and the two friends shook hands. As he turned to go, James Monroe thought, when I came here this morning, I had no idea I would be going to France for the President of the United States. And just think, I'm going there to buy a city. Ooh, have fun. So, question for you, excuse me. Who was the President of the United States, known as the third President of the United States? What's his name? Say it really loud. Thomas Jefferson. Good job. And who was James Monroe? Who was James Monroe? He was Thomas Jefferson's friend. Very nice friend. Now, let's take a look at this map. And I want you to which area of this map were we talking about today? Were we talking about the Appalachian Mountains? No, not today. We were talking about the Mississippi River. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. And we were talking about New Orleans, weren't we? Now, at the time of this read aloud, how were the people of the United States using the Mississippi River? What'd you say? Yeah, they were using it to carry supplies up and down the river. Good job. Now, why did they use the river to carry those supplies? And why did I draw these funky pictures? Well, one is of walking to carry supplies, one is using horses to carry supplies, and one is using boats to carry supplies. Which one of these is easier? Yeah, cruising up and down the river would be a lot easier to get supplies where they need to go. So that's why they use the Mississippi River. Now, who is this guy? Napoleon. He was the emperor of France. That's right. And there's his pretty picture. And why? What was the whole point of the story? Why do they want to buy this New Orleans from Napoleon? Just in case he gets angry and cuts them off. That way they'll have control of the Mississippi River, because New Orleans is down at the mouth of the Mississippi River, right? Sure is. Good job, you guys were listening. Now tomorrow we'll learn more about whether or not James Monroe was successful purchasing New Orleans from Napoleon. So you have to wait till tomorrow to find out. But for today, I want you to grab your core folder. And Miss Darcy asked me to tell you something. So you'll notice that it's a lot more thinner on this side and not so many fun crafty stuff. That was because, as you'll remember, you're not in class anymore. You're learning from home. And Miss Darcy only had a day to get everything ready. And she didn't have time to get all the craft stuff ready for this unit about the Frontier Explorers. So she put a bunch of word work, and there's some other fun stuff in there that you'll get to do. But for a lot of days, it's going to be word work. Now, I know sometimes you guys complain about word work, but she really wants you to work hard. It doesn't take very long for you to do your word work, and it's important. So today's word work is emperor. So in the read aloud today, you heard Thomas Jefferson say to James Monroe, "Yes, I want to send you to France to see the Emperor Napoleon, who rules France and half of Europe as well." Can you say the word emperor with me? Emperor. Emperor. It's spelled emperor, but you can say it however you want. Emperor. An emperor is the male ruler of an empire or a group of countries. An emperor is kind of like a king. Now, Thomas Jefferson wanted to buy the city of New Orleans from the Emperor of France, who was Napoleon. Now, emperors can do whatever they wanted. If you were emperor, what is one thing you would do? Think about it. What's one thing you would do? Did you think of something? You know where to write it. You're going to write it right here. What would you do as emperor? You know the drill on this. You're going to write your name, trace emperor, rewrite it in your neatest, nicest handwriting, and then you're going to sketch a picture of an emperor. Now, it doesn't have to be Emperor Napoleon. It can be any emperor you like. It could be Emperor Zane. It could be Emperor Tony. It could be Emperor Gabe. It could be Emperor Anna. It could be Emperor Sophia. It could be Emperor Harper. It could be Emperor Denise. It could be Emperor Carson. It could be Emperor Sophia. It could be Emperor James or Emperor Crixus. It could be Emperor Caroline or Emperor Josephine. It could be Emperor Jara or Emperor Simon or Emperor Naeli. You hear the bird? He's humming Star Wars. He's whistling Star Wars. Where was I? It could be Emperor, I said Naeli. It could be Emperor Natalie or Emperor Lucy. It could be Emperor Eric or Emperor Ross. It could be Emperor Katerina or Emperor Kinsley or Emperor Kaylee or Emperor David. It could be any emperor you want. And what about Emperor Caslin? It could be any emperor you want. Send me your emperors. I can't wait to see your pictures, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.